Tim Legler, ESPN NBA analyst, joins us here on the Sports Bash. Legs, I got to be honest, I haven't been pulled in by these playoffs. The second season hasn't gotten me quite yet. I'm waiting for that story to emerge. Have you been pulled in by this year's playoffs yet?
I got to be honest with you, no. I mean, I really haven't. I look, obviously, this is what I do for a living. You're a diehard. We want it badly. But I know I can't sit there and say I've been just completely drawn to it where it's must-see TV for me to this point. I think it has a chance of getting there, and I think Oklahoma City pulling that game out the other night, that makes that series infinitely more compelling, and I'm super excited about the game tonight. I can't wait to watch that and see how that transpires. But for the most part, no, it's been pretty underwhelming based on what we expected, I think, going in. So I got to agree with you.
I agree with you on the Oklahoma City thing. How imperative, then, is that game tonight? You win that game in San Antonio, don't you have to prove that means something by winning tonight?
100%. You can't give it back, and that's what I always say in situations like this. You can't give it back. You have to immediately capitalize. I was very impressed with the way Oklahoma City came out the other night defensively, and I know a lot of people have been, putting more stock in San Antonio missed a bunch of shots at the start of the game they normally make. I don't buy it. If you go back and watch the first quarter of that game, that's as intense as I've seen Oklahoma City defensively all year. They were engaged. They were flying all over the court. I thought Steven Adams sensational for 48 minutes, everything he did defensively. You could tell the fight that they had at the start, and they set the tone for the night, and they got the win. So now you have to go home and immediately establish your home court and go up in the series, because if you drop one immediately right now, 2-1, you're down with Game 4 still to be played in your building. I just think that's too demoralizing a gut punch to recover from. So I think Oklahoma City, if they want to win this series, they have to win this game tonight.
Tim Legler is with us. The other one tonight is Heat and Cavs, Heat and Hawks. I just can't buy, even last year, 60-plus wins. I just can't buy that Hawks team. I don't see them winning a game in this series, I think, Sunday.
Yeah, look, what happened the other night was an embarrassment. You were in a game in Game 1, actually surprised me by making a run in the second half and actually taking a lead at one point. I remember saying to myself, and I sent out a group text to some guys that I was watching the game with, and I said, how is this a 5-point game right now? It just felt like it was already 20, and then Atlanta takes the lead. It's a battle, and you expect them to come out, take something from that in Game 2, and they get completely humiliated. 18 threes allowed in the first half, and other than J.R. Smith's threes, most of those were uncontested shots. They didn't show a lot of fight, didn't show a lot of intestinal fortitude, not a lot of toughness. After the game, they sounded soft and weak by complaining about Cleveland trying to get the record and then not really going all in on them, though. Like, I felt like if you're going to challenge them and call them out for trying to clown you and break a record, well, then go all in and say, let's see you try it down in Atlanta. It's going to be a street fight. Bring it. Yeah. I didn't hear any of that. It was almost like they were afraid to offend them too much. They wanted to make a point. They were embarrassed by it. They thought it was wrong, but they're not going to go too hard because they still have to play them. And I think that's just a soft mentality. They might just be that they're too nice a group of guys because Cleveland just absolutely demoralized them the other night. And it wouldn't shock me if Atlanta came out and won Game 3, but it's not going any more than that.
Tim Legler is with us. Raptors survived a test from the Heat. They even the series 1-1. They're 4-0 after a loss, but I feel like the Raptors, I just can't take them seriously. I thought this would be the year we could take them seriously and at least get to that Eastern Conference final, but I don't know that I'm buying them either. No,
and look, tell me how crazy this statement is. We're 1-1 with 2 overtime games, and I feel like Miami's completely controlled the series.
Yeah,
it sounds crazy, but I really believe that. I think when I look at Miami, I think that they've let 2 games really slip out of their grasp in the fourth quarter that they've controlled at the key time in the game. The turnovers have hurt them. Joe Johnson really had a poor fourth quarter in Game 2 after having a great third, and that really hurt them because he had a lot of empty trips down the stretch where he wasn't converting. And then Lowry made a couple of big shots finally, but those 2 guys are struggling to such an extent, and now it's even trickled over to the foul line. I just don't know how you manage to win a series when your 2 best players are playing.
Yeah, and Lowry, he looks like he's not the same guy, right? Something's wrong with him.
I personally, just having enough experience in seeing it, dealing with it, going through shooting slumps, different things that happened to me, throughout my career and the teammates, it's to me 90% of it's between his ears.
Huh.
I don't think this is physical at all. I think this is a guy that is completely rattled and lost his confidence, and he looked this way in the postseason a year ago, but we kind of wrote it off to, he had a bad series. I think when he started off poorly in the first round against Indiana, I think he started to really question his own ability to play under the stress of the playoffs, and now it's really permeated his brain. And he did make 2 tough shots the other night that were important shots, but I think in general he is rattled to the extent that his confidence isn't there. He doesn't look like the same guy. He keeps coming to these jump stops with 4 pump fakes in the lane. Those are plays during the regular season. When he gets into the lane, he's elevated trying to get to the rim and jump into somebody and draw a foul. It's almost like it's the last resort now is for him to shoot, and that's just not the way he thinks. So I think his confidence is rattled to an extent. I don't know if he's going to be able to turn it around in this series, and they can't win without those 2 guys playing better. They just can't.
Yeah, DeRozan, too. We'll keep an eye on that series, which at least is entertaining, 1-1. And then, I don't think they need Curry, but at some point I guess you got to bring him back so that he's ready for the next series. He gets his legs under him. When do you bring back Curry? Do you just kind of wait to see how the series goes? Because I would assume it's not going to be on an as-needed basis, right?
No, it's not going to be. It's interesting because it's a weird situation now because they've come out basically and said he's doubtfully going to play in Game 3, and that's really sounds like it's Kerr's and the medical team's point of view. Like he could play if this was a Game 7, but they're just going to wait. There's no point. Well, now what happens if you go up 3-0? Well, then why would you play him in the 4th game? It doesn't make any sense to just give him the extra rest and get him closer to 100% by the time you play the conference finals. I mean, that's kind of where it seems like this is going, and that's just good news for Golden State because particularly if Oklahoma City and San Antonio can find a way to take that out to 6 or 7 games and they get this over with in 4, I think that's ultimately going to be a good thing. Guys like Steph Curry, his shooting ability and his rhythm and his skill set is so high that he's not like he's going to be rusty. He's going to come back, and I think he's going to look like Steph Curry whenever he takes the court again. I don't think you worry about that with a guy like Curry. He's not an isolation-based player that you worry about their rhythm and timing and all those things. He's a guy that gets a lot of his stuff in the flow of the offense, and I don't think the guys that shoot the ball the way he does really feel that rust when they come back because they're getting reps. So I think at this point they might just wait until if Portland wins Game 3, you'll see him in Game 4. But if Portland does not, I don't know that you see him until the conference finals.
Tim Legler is with us, ESPN NBA analyst here. The playoffs continue Saturday and Sunday here on 97.3. Tim, you're a local guy. Frank Vogel, a local guy. He got sent packing yesterday. Not fired, just not renewed. What's Larry Bird's train of thought there? Do you agree with him?
No, I don't really agree with him. I think it's really unfair to when you look at his body of work and the job that he did this year. He took over a completely different team this year. I mean, they replaced 60% of their starting lineup. Stevenson gone, Hibbert gone, West gone. Your best player coming back his first full season after that bad injury. All new parts around him. You change your style of play. You go smaller. You have a rookie playing major minutes before he's 20 years old, Miles Turner. So many changes, and yet he leads them to not only the playoffs, but they go 7 games against the 2 seed, and a couple calls go differently in that game, or they don't give away the game. They had a 15-point lead going into the 4th quarter, and that was a little bit Vogel's doing because he sat Paul George at the start of the 4th after his bench let him down in the 2nd quarter. But still, he did a phenomenal job. He's a good coach, well-regarded, well-respected. I think it came down to a very simple fact. Larry Bird just didn't buy into Frank Vogel. You could even see by his comments after the season the next day, like basically said, hey, either he might come back, he might not. Either way, he's going to be fine. I was like, wow, that you just don't hear presidents of teams talk like that. And I knew then he was out. It was a matter of time. He will bounce back on his feet. I don't know if he wants to coach next year, if he's going to try to get a job next year, but if not, the way this league works, you know it. There's 8-9 jobs open every year, it seems like. So It won't be too long before Frank Vogel is coaching a team in the NBA. And don't be surprised if Brett Brown isn't in trouble, if they don't see progress this year with a new management team in there, if they don't see progress in the Sixers and a more coordinated effort defensively, more prepared team, and the progress of their young players, that wouldn't shock me. I don't know if Vogel would want that job, but it would make a lot of sense a Wildwood guy, great coach, a track record, getting a chance to coach the Sixers, that would make some sense to me. So don't be surprised. They gave Brett Brown the extension, but that wasn't Brian Colangelo that did that. So remember that. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, we'll mark that down. And he was on the Sixers bench as an assistant a couple of years back. But what's more likely then? He's working with you next year, or he's coaching? He's got the gift of gab. He's a pretty good describer of the game.
That's a good question. I don't know. I think that you don't know what guys really want to do. Tom Thibodeau came up, and I had a chance to work with him a little bit these last two postseasons, and it's interesting now that he's got a job, and he enjoyed it. But you can tell these guys, they get a taste of it for the most part. But especially with his age, Frank Vogel wants to desperately get back into coaching. But I think he's going to be smart not to just jump at a job that isn't a good job and something you can win with, or at least have young talent that you see in 3-4 years being a power, similar to what Thibodeau took in Minnesota. So I don't think he has to rush back in and take the first job available. He might sit back for a year. Hey, sometimes these guys just want to spend time with family, like Scott Brooks did, and just sit back and miss the game a little bit before you jump back in there.
Have some Sam's Pizza this summer here on the boardwalk.
You got it. That's right.
Tim Legler, NBA playoffs continue, and, of course, we'll have the game Saturday and Sunday here on 97.3. Legs, we hope we can catch up again soon. Thanks, pal.
No question, Mike. I'll talk to you soon.